Oh, okay.
Do you have it on? Oh, do you have it on?
Is it better? Is it yours working or? I'll turn it on. Because mine's spotty.
Okay.
All right. Well, so happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
How was everybody's week last week? Productive, not productive, frustrating, exciting? Anybody?
I think productive.
Everybody's very
kind of-
talkative so far. Hey, Dustin, what's happening, buddy? You're muted.
I went to First Friday with Kim.
I saw that picture. How'd that go?
Good. I mean, she knows like most of the there,
Okay.
but
I don't need to be that close. Oh, okay.
You're breaking up, buddy. I don't know why.
Have Tony's money from something.
Like your audio's just not coming through. Your lips are moving, but there's no voice. We are having technical difficulties today.
We're all here. There's 4 of us here.
All right, good. Well, there you go. Dustin
Yeah,
just
we're all
can't be
here.
heard. All right. So yeah, just recapping, like how was the week last week? Like, I mean, you know, we talked about trying to do some stuff as far as just being deliberate with activities. You know, in previous weeks, we discussed the importance of trying to have that the goals of at least the communications and the appointments. And I'm wondering about, you know, with sort of the maybe heightened awareness of those couple activities, how it's gone for everybody. Are they seeing any kind of different results? Is it putting you in a better frame of mind? Like how's everybody doing, I guess, is the giant question.
Anybody here want to go first?
You
I like going first. By the way, you didn't hear me. I have your money. I thought you were gonna be here today for your.
I'll get up there. Yeah, it's all good.
Stick it in your desk or give it to Sydney?
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Can you
fine.
trust Sydney?
That too. There you go.
Better laptop.
I am giving it to Sydney right now.
Okay.
There you go.
I don't want to be
Thank you.
responsible. All right, but yeah, one thing that's really helped me, which should be common sense, especially for somebody that's been in sales, you know, most of their life, is asking for the appointment, you know? I mean, it's so silly, but I've done it twice in the last week and I got both appointments.
Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, I don't have anything on paper yet from them, but I feel like I'm gonna get both of them.
Well, you know, like again, when you think about the game that we play, right? Or the game that we're in, excuse me. You know, the first win is the conversation. The second win is the appointment. And frankly, as you go down that sales path, so to speak, your percentages go up. So the percentage of contacts to conversations might be 15 to 25%, 30% if you're good. Once you get in a conversation with them, and you ask for the appointment 100% of the time, the conversion rate may go up to 50%. But then once you get the appointment, you know, if you have a good plan of action to work once you get the appointment, that closing ratio usually goes up to 75 or 80% or higher. So the more you get that going, the more that you establish the appointment as the goal, your sales volume is going to go up precipitously because the closing ratio goes up so much at that point. So, and then you ask for the deal, right? I mean, then you just ask for the deal. So it's just constantly asking, and so that's great. Anybody else?
So, let's see, I have been asking for the appointment, not all the time, like, I've asked for it probably half of the time. And like, I've recognized the thing that like throws me off my game from asking. I totally know what it is. And it's like these people that are like, yeah, we're 5 years out. We're not doing anything for 5 years. And I know I just need to say what you told us, like, if I could find you the perfect house now, at the right price, would you be wanting to do something sooner,
Or
But-
just ask them why they're 5 years out. Engage the conversation.
Well, usually it's because they say because they're waiting to retire. That's what they tell me. It's boomtown people and they're somewhere else and they're waiting to retire is what they tell me. So those are the people that I'm just like.
So I'm just gonna go down that road because, and it's a valid objection. I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying that that's not a valid objection, but how far down the road in that conversation do you go? You know what I mean? Do you just accept it or do you probe?
Well, I guess I do a little probing, but then I'm like, okay, they're 5 years out. All right. And I just don't feel like, I guess I don't feel like, I know exactly the best kind of questions to ask them because it just feels so like definite, like that's it. We're not retiring for 5 more years,
Well, I mean, so I'll just ask the generic question to the group that's here. Like, what's some questions people would want to ask if somebody said they're like, I'll take the 5 years and you could supplement that or replace it with anything. 5 years, 5 weeks, 5 months, not yet. What are some of the questions you ask those people? Like, how do you engage those people when they give you it's a time objection is what
Well,
it is.
Yesterday I had a lady that she said she was going to wait. And I asked the question that I'm normally terrified to ask, but that you always say. So I said, what are you waiting for? And this was via text because she didn't call me back. But so it wasn't as terrifying, I guess, but she was like, it's personal reasons, So I guess that's one question to ask, like, what are you waiting for? If they say retirement, that's obvious what they're waiting for.
Well, what's a compelling reason not to wait? Well, first of all, my two favorite questions are what and why. Why and what answer all tell us where to go. What are you waiting for? Why are you waiting? What do you mean by that? Why is that important to you? Those two questions, if you ask them 100% of the time, you're going to know what to talk about. So, but what are compelling reasons not to wait? What would be a motivating factor for somebody that in their mind thinks they have to wait?
Prices could go up, history could repeat itself. But again, on that note, I've had people lately tell me that they think that prices are gonna go down and they might wanna wait, but of course I tell them, listen, they're not gonna go down. It's just, we're not gonna be in a bidding war now to get a property, and first time home buyers are finally gonna have a shot. So.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what's the data tell us about prices going down in our marketplace? Because, you got to realize that the information that is given to people or the information that people are looking at is national data. It is a synopsis of national data. So the first thing you got to do is explain that to them, right? That's the first thing. Then the next thing you have to do is know your local data. So what's the local data tell us at this point? Now that's ever changing, obviously, but right now today, what's the local data?
We all should know that, right?
I would hope so. I'm a little scared that nobody's answering.
Oh, well, I know exactly, it's all what we've been talking about in the meetings about our local data. And it's easy to get access to because it does continue to change, right?
Yeah, but it's got to be top of minds. I mean, it's like, I'll give you an example. I'm at an appointment this morning. Guy says to me, do you see the market softening? I have a standard answer. I see the market normalizing. That's what I see. Well, what about pricing? Is it going to go down? Well, the economists tell us from a 5 to 10% decrease to a 5 to 10% increase. Oh, really? Yes. And that's 100% of the time, because that's what I'm told. We still have a short supply of inventory. We still have more people coming to the market than any other place in the country. We now have a more compressed Florida market because we just lost the southwest quadrant of the market. So if that's not internalized, then you're ill prepared, right? And I don't mean that to be negative. It's a challenge. You have to. This is your script. When you talk about scripting, it's not necessarily I'm going to say the same things over and over because like the data could evolve. But I don't care who you're talking to. That's the answer. Right? And then you can literally go in and look at average days on market at Pro. You can go in and look at market segments. You can go in and look at all that. Because again, the economists are talking about the Florida market in general. I still think personally that the Tampa Bay region, because of its growth and lack of ability to build new, is even immune from that. So if that's the case, when's the best time to buy?
No.
Anybody? What's anybody's opinion? There's not really a right or wrong answer. Dustin, to you, what's the best time to buy?
Well, I always joke with people when that comes up, it was, right? That's what we always say in real estate. But I tell them to get on the wagon now. I mean, prices get any better. We're kind of leveling off, but the interest rates are rising, so it increases your buying power. So that usually helps.
Kristen, what's your answer? I mean, I'm just curious.
My answer's no,
Why?
because of, what we said about the prices. I think that prices are continuing to go up. Like, historically, maybe they'll go down a little, but they're going to continue to rise.
And then if you tie it in, if you follow up with that, are you paying cash or doing a mortgage, right? If you're not paying, first of all, if you're not paying cash, right, you're buying a payment. That's
You're
just
buying
a
what?
fact. You're buying a payment.
Oh,
You're buying affordability in most cases. So if you're not paying cash, fluctuation, there's a couple things that, because I see this, like, here's what I see and I hear from agents, and you may fit into this bubble, you may not. Well, you're agents, but you know what I mean. I hear a trepidation to engage the argument. And the reason there's a trepidation to engage the argument is because you don't know the answers or you don't believe the answers, right? So for me, there's great logic in first of all, if somebody's concerned about values, we've just dispelled the myth by one way, giving them economic data and rationale behind it. What's another way to dispel that fear of market adjustments? What's another answer you could give?
Well, I personally feel like there's no bad time to buy real estate because, look what's happened just, if you go back 20 years, right? I mean, it's just kind of like the stock market, but more stable, but you're always going to have fluctuations. So if you buy now and you're not ready to live in it, which, you know, I think a lot of people are gonna be buying out homes now for themselves versus just these investors. But, you know, you can, if you're not ready to move into it, you can always rent it out and, you know, for 4 or 5 years or whatever. And, you know, certainly the market is gonna change some in 4 or 5 years. It
Yeah,
always-
I mean, that was gonna be my next avenue to go down is how long you gonna own it? How long you gonna own the house? Right?
Mhm.
Because the only person that needs to be concerned about a fluctuation in market is the flipper.
Yeah,
For the, I think you adequately explained it, Mary. I mean, you know, markets are gonna fluctuate. But if I'm gonna own, if you buy a house in our marketplace over a 5-year period, even if you took first of all, if you've owned a house here, you've already gained 40. So if it loses 10%, who gives a shit, right? But the fact of the matter is, over 5 years, you're gonna get that back and then some. That's historically proven out over decades. It's historically proven out from the debacle of 07 and 08. Right? Nobody's selling their house for what it went back to. They've all made money on it. Right? So now if you factor in, again, the other factor that could be is cash or finance, right? Cash or mortgage. So the only person that loses money on a house is a person that pays cash and sells it at the down cycle in a marketplace. Okay. But would you rather be a buyer? And so a buyer tells me I want to wait. And so what do you want to wait for? The next surge? What are you waiting for?
Well, people say there's a crash. Everybody says
Really?
there's gonna be a crash. That's what people say to me.
they do all the time, yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
do you supply that data? Because so here's the deal. So I'll tell you what my answer would be to that person is, so you're only reading the headline. Because I've read 15 or more articles that start out with that exact headline or thereabouts. And then you get into the body of the article and it says why this time is different.
mhm, mhm.
So look,
Yeah, and you're right, Tony, because they're looking at the whole country, basically, in those, I mean, 'cause, you know, Florida, we're
and
blessed.
what's a crash look like? If you read the articles, it explains to them that, you know, the reason there was a crash before was because leverage was such a big part of the purchase deal. And leverage without qualifications was a big part of the deal, right?
Yeah,
The federal government took that away. There's more equity in homes today than at any time in history. At any time in history. That's a fact. So, who walks away from their own money? That's a real question. I'm asking that question.
what do you mean?
Who walks away from their equity?
Why
Would anybody in this room walk away from their equity?
No.
No. People walked away from leverage. They didn't walk away from equity. So if there's more equity in the marketplace than at any time in history, that's the insulation from a crash. That is it in a nutshell. I believe the latest data I saw was the average equity in a home today is like 41%. Nobody's walking away from that. Nobody. People can afford what they've purchased. Now, let's take it one step further. The lion's share of the marketplace that did leveraged in the 3% range.
Well, and they bid over ask, so they already put down tens of thousands of dollars of their own
Right. They're not walking away from their money, but the follow-up to that is that this is why there's no crash. There's not going to be any inventory because the generic spot sell buy is second guessing walking away from a 3% mortgage to a 7% mortgage. Now, will that hold properties at which by the way is why the government's doing it. But you gotta look, if you're not taking the time on a call on an engaged client to have this conversation and you think they know it, you're a fool. Because there's 90% of your database does not take the time to think this through. That's just a fact. So there's going to be less inventory coming onto the market. It becomes a normalized market. It becomes the balanced market, right? So, the person that thinks there's going to be a crash, they're going to be greatly disappointed. Now I'll go one step further. What if you got a stable market environment and the economists are right and we appreciate 5 to 10% per year? Are your earnings, this is me talking to a customer, are your earnings or your saving capability going to be able to keep up with a 5 to 10% appreciation? What do you think the answer is to that question for the average consumer?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Let's assume you're waiting 5 years. Let's assume you're waiting 1 year. Let's assume you're waiting 2 years. If I'm right, okay, and the market goes up 3 to 8% year over year, are your earnings going to go up 3 to 8% year over year to keep up with that increase? What do you think the average consumer is going to say?
No.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly. Does a person that said last year, I'm going to wait for this market to stabilize, can they buy a house for a cheaper number today than they could a year ago?
No.
Right. That's historically sound. There's only been like 2 or 3 times in history where, and if you look at the answer to that question and you dig deep, because if somebody said, well, I'm going to take Sydney's position. I don't have to bid over ask to get it. Okay. Are you leveraging the property? I am. So you're really paying 4% more on a monthly basis over 30 years, right? So then when you start to look at that, are you saving money by waiting? I've been doing this 22 years now, almost 23. I've never seen anybody save money by waiting. Not once. Not once. But if you are not educating yourself, practicing the answers, internalizing the answers, and believing the answer, if you don't believe what I'm saying, I'm not asking you to repeat it. Trust me when I'm telling you that. But if you believe what I'm saying, or part of what I'm saying, or any semblance of what I'm saying, if you're not taking the time to internalize it so you can repeat it just like I'm saying it to you, and you're not attempting to have that conversation with everybody, you've just missed a share of your conversions. Right? So I'm going to ask, if I may, I'm going to ask Kristen a question. You say you ask for the appointment 50% of the time, or, thereabouts. I always hear like and you're always very honest, and I appreciate that. Like and I believe your words are, I'm afraid to ask, or I'm afraid to have that conversation. I believe I'm close to your words. My question is, what are you afraid of?
Well, to be quite honest with you, like, I don't feel like I have I believe what you're saying about what we just went over, and I just wrote it all down, but like, I don't feel like I have that good of a grasp like you do on all of this stuff. So I don't feel like I am comfortable and confident enough with the talking points to like really have a good conversation about it. And so that's on me. Like, I need to get comfortable. Like, maybe we can do some practicing of the conversation, like some,
We can role play. all
yeah,
you
role
want,
play. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. Role play the conversation so we get comfortable with it. But I think for me, because I think most of you know, like, I mean, I'm not really, I need to get better with it, but every time I turn on the news, I just get so upset. And by turn on, I mean, listen to it on Alexa or look at it online. I get so upset. And so I don't pay as good of attention to it as I should. So I feel out of the loop. I am out of the
Yeah,
loop.
but I think like, so, well, first of all, look, you got to put blinders on. I mean, I'll say that to everybody. And then, none of us are immune to the impact of our surroundings, right? Whatever they might be. So I think that's, for me, the thing that keeps me, look, I'm not immune from getting influenced by like the idiots that run this country. I mean, I can't be. I mean, the shit that's going on right now is bizarre. I mean, it's just bizarre. It doesn't make any sense to me. But in saying that, right? First of all, I think you always have to get your information from a rounded source. I don't look, there's nobody that questions what my political beliefs are. I don't run from them. I don't hide from them. But I do listen to what the other side is selling. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I think the danger in listening to the news is when you just look at it from one perspective.
Yeah.
Right? That's one thing. Secondly, most of my data I get from reading. I don't get from listening. Right? And I get it from multiple sources. Why is that important? Because I don't want to be influenced by somebody else's opinion. I like my opinion best, and I can't form my opinion without gathering my information myself. So that's why when I go into a conversation with anybody about anything, I'm pretty confident, whether I'm right or wrong, I'm confident about the position I hold because the research is mine. It's not Kristen told me, right? It's not Jesse Waters told me or Bill, or Whoopi Goldberg offered her opinion on The View. I mean, that's not where I'm getting my data from, right? But I've heard they're talking, I might hear them say something and then go look at it, go find the data that they're referring to. And I do that with, you got to do that with your trade, right? And then look, short of a nuclear Armageddon, which obviously the president that we have now thinks is likely because he don't even know what fucking day it is. Short of that happening, there's always going to be people buying and selling shit. Right? So what that might mean to you is that if it took, now again, this goes back to what are your goals and objectives? If it took 100 leads to get my 3 deals, well, maybe I got to get 200 leads to get my 3 deals. Everything can adjust based on market conditions, right? But there will always be a market, right? And we can't focus on the ones we don't get. We got to focus on the ones we do get, right? But you've got to figure out what you believe is your selling, right? What are you selling? What are you about? What do you believe your market's about? And how are you going to help a customer navigate that? And educate them on the misinformation they might have, right? That's really got to be your primary objective, I think. So that, to your point, Kristen, and I don't think you're alone, that you're very confident. See, if you're not confident in having that conversation, you're going to avoid conversations. And if you avoid conversations, your percentages drop. You got it. It's, you know, take your analogies, whatever. You know, it's baseball. It's definitely baseball. If you're a batter and you're in a slump, you got to keep going up and swinging the bat until you get a hit. And then, you know, the difference between somebody being on a tear and being in a slump is usually slight adjustments in what they're doing. It's the same thing in sales. If you're avoiding 50%, and I think that was your number, right? And I'm not picking on you. I'm using your number because I think everybody's guilty of it. If you're avoiding 50% of the conversations, you got to talk to twice as many people. Right?
Mhm.
So then I kind of break it down to the basics, right? There's fear or trepidation, whatever you want to call anxiety, whatever it might be, because it's different for everybody. What's the worst thing that can happen if you attempt it 100% of the time?
People say no.
What happens if you don't take the shot?
You'll never know. And the answer is always no.
Right. So like that to me is where I kind of reconcile it, right? Not that the fear's legit, the anxiety's legit, never downplaying that at all. But I always go to what's the worst case scenario. If the worst case scenario is I'm no worse off if I do it than I don't. But the best case scenario is if I do it, my percentages increase. I should just do it. Right? I mean, and oh, by the way, to your point of not feeling comfortable with it, right? Which I think is really the hurdle for everybody, right? The best advice I can give, and as much as I don't want to downplay the role playing aspect of it, right? I don't want to take that away. And if you think that's a good methodology to practice, that's great. But I'll tell you what, failing in a conversation with a consumer, or better said, having the conversation with the consumer, hanging up the phone and analyzing that conversation and going and fine tuning from there is going to get you so much further along than role playing with Mary or Dustin or me or whatever. I mean, because you can't, those conversations are living, breathing deals, right? I mean, you just never know what's going to happen in them. So you have a few talking points that like my talking, like if you look at it, there's not a lot to my talking points. There's really not. So the way a customer interacts with each one of them is going to be different. I can't practice that. I don't know how they're going to react. They're all, listen, some people want to have their opinion, right? And then I go like, so let's just say you get in that debate. You get in that debate with a person that, thinks there's going to be a crash. You don't think there's going to be a crash. Okay. So that would you not agree that right now, and I'm just curious, that's probably the most drastic scenario of a conversation? Your engagement is somebody that thinks there's going to be a crash and you don't think there's going to be a crash. Would you say that's the biggest gap between all the conversations?
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, like that, I don't know if the biggest gap, but I would say that's the main thing. Like, that's the objection that maybe not crash, but like just waiting for the prices to go down, waiting to see what the market's gonna do. You know, that's like the main thing people say to me.
So let's just attack that. If that's the primary objective that we're hearing, right? An instinctive question for me would be, are you paying cash or financing? That's an instinctive question for me. A second instinctive question for me is, how long do you intend to be in the house? Because those two questions diffuse a price reduction, right? Because, and I'll take it one step further. If I've got a buyer that says they're going to pay cash, and that's why they're concerned, well, if they're wrong, which I believe they are, and property values go up 5 to 10%, it just costs them more money. That's just a fact. So an easy way to remove the risk and see what happens is do a mortgage. Let the lender's money be at risk. If all you put down is the equity of your down payment, you've lost nothing. You got to pay to live somewhere. So, you know, this becomes even more relevant to a homeowner and or a renter. Got to live somewhere. You're paying something to live somewhere. Now, if you've got a decent income, you've got a income tax savings based on home ownership that you can't have as a non-homeowner and or a renter. These items alone would more than offset the weight. And again, right, like, I mean, it's not going to work on everybody. Right? This is not, I'm not sitting here saying that if you have these talking points and you have this market knowledge and you execute it on everybody that you work with, that you're going to get 100% win. The goal is to get the ones that you should get, the hey, right place, right time, and to get a better percentage of the ones in the middle, that the difference between the shopper or the waiter, I'll call him the waiter, and the buyer or seller is the salesperson that can help them navigate that market. That's our target audience. That's why we do these things that I'm suggesting. You're not going to take somebody that's a never and make them a now. But if you 100% execute like this, you're always going to get the now person, and you're going to get a bigger percent of the nurture move up to now. And that's the goal, because that's where you build your volume at. If you're looking to build your volume, right? So I think, I mean, again, like I think the biggest thing I can't sell anything I don't believe in, right? I'm never gonna, like, I've been in sales now since Christmas. I was 13 or 14 years old, right? So that's a true statement. I mean, you know, first I worked in a men's and boys clothing store, then I worked in a car dealership, and now I sell real estate and money. I mean, I can honestly say that I've never presented something to somebody that I didn't believe, right? That's the critical nature of it. So, and the way I've been able to do that is just logic. I'm not smarter than any one of you. I might spend more time reading. I don't know. I wouldn't even venture to say that. But I'm not smarter than any one of you. I just try and look at everything logically. Right? When do you lose money on real estate?
When do you lose?
Yeah, when do you lose money on a real estate transaction?
Well, obviously, if you buy, like, just say you buy now, and then, for some reason you have to sell quickly because of a job transfer or whatever, you could lose.
That's about it. An unforeseen circumstance. That's when you lose money on real estate. Right? That's my belief. I believe that. The only way you lose money on real estate was an unforeseen circumstance. You have to, but that's everything. If you buy a car and you have to sell it the next day, you lose money on it. If you buy a piece of furniture and you have to unload it the next day, you're going to lose money on it. If you buy a boat 2 hours later, you've lost money on it. Right? I can't think of one thing in life that if you buy it, that it doesn't cost you something if you have to sell it quickly. I can't think of anything out there that's a fact on. Of all the things I just mentioned.
I bought a concert ticket recently that I made money on.
There you go. So there's the anomaly. The fact of the matter is, though, out of all those things I just mentioned, the only thing that has a shot at making money is a real estate investment. And then you factor in the other things. I got to live somewhere. I have to live somewhere, right? That's one. Tax advantages to a real estate purchase. And the opportunity and probability that over time, it's going to appreciate. So now I'm talking to somebody that wants to wait 5 years. I don't know that I can overcome that. They may not have the ability to overcome a 5-year wait. Right? But would you say right now you would be more armed to have a conversation with them about why they're waiting?
Definitely.
And again, the 5-year, listen, I don't care what the objection is, right? The idea between what you're really attempting to do on a call, it's a mutual interview, right? What you're really attempting to do on the call is determine, do I first think, are they now, nurture, or never? What are they? Can I move them from, if they're never, they're never. I don't know that you're ever going to flip a never. If they're really a never, right?
Sorry.
Can I flip a nurture to now? Can I flip a nurture to now? Right? And where do I put them in my follow-up? That's all you're really trying to find out. And then if they're a nurture or a now, you're asking for the appointment. That's the objective every time you engage somebody. And then they move down the sales path. Right? Then they move down that road. And as they move into each category, you decide from there what you're going to do with them. You know, the first appointment, really the first appointment, you meet and greet, you're getting a face-to-face, whatever that may be. That first appointment's really a mutual interview. Do I want to, can I sell you something now? The hard part to get through to a lot of real estate agents, for me, is understanding that there's nothing wrong than doing this to make a living. That's the primary goal, to have cash flow for your business. That's got to be your primary goal. You know, providing the best service to the consumer becomes mutually beneficial. That relationship is mutually beneficial. It's not one-sided, right? They get what they want, you get what you want. Win-win. But it's funny how I think that is lost in the shuffle for most agents. And then what happens is, and again, Kristen, your honesty is appreciated, because I think that whether it's anybody else on this call or anybody listens to it as it's taped, the reality is that's a reality for a lot of people. Heck, it's a reality for me from time to time. You know, probably not as much anymore, because eventually what it leads to is a quiet confidence that, hey, look, I'm taking my at-bats. Not everybody's going to want to work with me. And honestly, I'm not going to want to work with everybody, right? I only want to work where it's mutually, it's a win-win for us, and we can help each other achieve our goals. And if I hang up a call, or I walk out of a meeting, or I walk out of an appointment, and I determine in my mind that that's not the right person for me, or they determine in their mind I'm not the right person for them, I go, oh, well, what the hell? Next. Forget it. Move on. It's not 100% business. So, but once you get that quiet confidence about you, you go into attack mode when you have the opportunity to engage somebody. You flat out go into attack mode, right? And therefore, you, like, if I use, and again, you know what? I don't care if it's 50%, 80%, 75%, 90%. If we're not taking 100% of the chances, you're not going to get 100% results. So, like, I guess I'm gonna start with Kristen. What would you do, like, after having this conversation? What would you attempt to do differently this week versus last week, if anything?
I would attempt to, no, I would probe more with the what and why, and I will ask for the appointment. I'm gonna just give it a shot on every call, and if they come at me with the, you know, those objections that we talked about, I feel like I have more data to provide them with. And yeah, I feel like more confident to engage them.
Hey, Dustin, what would you do differently this week versus last week? Anything?
Same thing. I'm trying to probe more, you know, I utilized that a lot more at my open house, tried to really drill down and understand why they were there, what they were looking for, you know, get them to open up, things like that. And I have been working on, you know, with my boomtown calls and stuff, telling them, you know, because I have a lot of the same thing, out of town, I'm not quite ready. And I've offered, hey, I see you hearted one, you know, I'll go shoot a video. Let me send you some comps and show you. So I'm trying to at least, you know, give them that call to action to keep pushing them to at least see something. I understand you're not here, but, you know, if you let me at least get you some videos, that'll get you interested, and then maybe we can get you down here. So
yeah, I think,
you
look,
know,
I think the
I'm
out of town
trying.
buyer's tough, man. I mean, you know, I don't want to, look, you could be spot on 100% doing everything you're doing. If they're not here, that's a hard nut to crack.
Yeah.
Right. So I think on the whole, I've got a meeting with Boomtown tomorrow scheduled. On the whole, and I took that look at these meetings help me too, right? I mean, and I hope they're helpful to you. that takeaway out of last week's meeting was I got to find out how to get more now business, whether it be from Boomtown or somewhere else. You've got to increase your now numbers or local number. We got to, right? You as an agent can't expect to, well, again, I'm gonna be very, I gotta be thorough with this. Depending on the volume that you want. If you want to be 36 to 48 units a year, 3 to 4 units a month, which is very doable, right? If you want to do that, if you want to do 24 units a year, it's hard to do if the lion's share of your leads are out of the area.
Mhm.
I would guess, you'd have to have a tremendous influx of out of town leads to get to 12 to 24 units a year, right? So in fairness, if a lot of them are out of town, I think the strategy remains the same, but the expectation must be different. If we're looking for a 50% conversion to appointment rate and appointment 75 or 80% closing rate on appointments, if they're out of town, you can't hold yourself accountable to those kind of numbers. You can't. It's not realistic. And if you do it, you're going to be a multimillionaire, and I'll learn from you because I can't figure it out. I don't have time for that shit. I need somebody I can meet and talk to. Look, I'll sit here for 60, 90 minutes with you guys, right? I'd rather do this than, the person that calls me once every 6 months and they've got somebody that wants to sue them. You know what I mean? You gotta focus on and grade yourself on reality, right? So I think that's an important, I think it's important to do that for yourselves. Analyze the call, but have reasonable expectations too. Or like if it's, let's look at that for a minute. Let's just stay on that topic for 1 second. Are you here? Are you coming here? Or when are you coming here? Why are you looking here? Why are you looking here now? So that out of town buyer really grill on them. Yes, Mayor.
Well, I was just gonna say that raises a question, or thought for me, because I do ask people that, and they're honest. Most of the time people say, well, we're just curious, I mean, a lot of, like, I had a guy one time who was sitting in, like, and I'm very good on getting on the leads quickly, I have to say I get an A+ for that, okay? I don't get an A+ in very many things, but I do for that. And and I do. And so I call this guy immediately one time. Oh, I can't believe you called me so quick. We're just looking now. I'm like, yeah, I know. I noticed you have a Texas number. You guys in Texas? No, we're in Tarpon Springs. We're getting ready to go eat some food. But we're leaving tonight after dinner to drive back to Orlando to catch our flight back to Texas. So, and I said, well, what brings you guys? I'm making conversation. I kept them on the phone for a half an hour at least. And because I feel like the more you can keep somebody in front of you, regardless if it's face to face or over the phone, you're going to be able to find out more, and then they, whatever. But anyway, I said, well, but I asked him that question. So why are you looking now? Because I said, are you guys planning on moving to Florida anytime soon? Oh, no, we both work. We can't retire for another 10 years. We were just curious. So I'm just saying that because I get a lot of people that actually say they're on, I got the lead from Boomtown because they are curious, they want to know.
Yeah, and frankly, I mean, look, I think that's why you ask those questions, because to me, so I agree with everything you said right there, right? For me, if they tell me they're just curious, right, I gotta go. Fantastic. Feel free to use my website. I send out occasional data here and there, but holy shit, I gotta go. I gotta go hit golf balls, because that's more important than me filling your world with curiosity. I mean, obviously that's tongue in cheek, but yeah, I mean, I think finding that stuff out, and that goes back to what you like. look, you have got to look at your time as being your most valuable asset. You're going to spend your time wisely. If your time was $1,000 bill, you're going to spend it wisely. You're just not going to give it to somebody. So asking those questions, and yeah, you could go down the road, you know, like, okay, I can't buy anything out. Well, listen, would you have any interest in buying an investment property that maybe you could use as a second home? Oh, no, we can't do that. All right, great. Well, listen, use my website anytime you want. If you have a question about real estate or mortgage needs, let me know. You know, this is my direct line, and enjoy your stay here in Tarpon Springs. I know agents that would show those people houses. I ain't no tour guide. Right? So I think it's really critical. You know, I mean, you and again, look, it goes back to a week or two ago when we talked about multiple buckets of leads. Where are they coming from? Repeat referral. You know, Boomtown is one source. What's your other source? Remax is another source. Open houses are another source. What are your sources of leads? If you got all your eggs, Zillow's another source. Realtor.com's another source. It's very, very, very dangerous to have all your eggs in one basket. And it's foolish not to analyze what's going on with each bucket. You know, you do a specific analysis, and then you do a general analysis overall. That's how you see what's going on. Listen, quite frankly, I go back to what I said, I think it was last week. I go back to, I love the Boomtown CRM. I am questioning the Boomtown leads. Right? They're mutually exclusive. CRM, fantastic. But if everybody's telling me the lion's share of these leads are are not local, are not now, a large percentage is never, man, that's not a great lead buy. And this is a pretty good sampling we're having now. This is not like, oh, we have a 1 month anomaly. So
I was also wondering, did they say anything about when the KV core is coming online for us?
no, I think I mentioned it last week, or I answered it to somebody independently. I was supposed to be in that meeting last week up in Hilton Head, and that got postponed because of the storm. It is now rescheduled for the end of the month. I'm hopeful that I get a little bit more data, but I mean, the generic answer is anywhere from the fourth quarter to the third quarter of next year. So, you know, that's kind of rough. And it's always my beef with, it's one of the, and I've said this to them, it's where they suck. They're just terrible at like throwing the bait in the water before they're ready to fish. I mean, you know, they tell us we're going to have KV. Like, my point is, what do I do between now and then? I can't spend more time on booze. It's going away. Do I go and sign up for KV? If it's going to be a year, do I go sign a year contract with KV Core? What do I do, right, to be prepared? I'm trying to get that answer, and as soon as I get it, I'll certainly share it with the masses, but it's not clear yet. It's not clear yet.
Hey, Tony.
I think it's going to be very good when we get it, though.
I've got a quick question, and then I have a Pilates class I gotta make. It's at noon. Yeah, I didn't quit yet. And it's for real though, my favorite instructor's at noon, and I hardly ever get to take her classes. But so Wednesday, if you're available, I have Florida that day, but I also was thinking, like, I want to start like moving more towards like first time home buyers and people that are renting apartments in like Pinellas and Hillsborough County, whatever. Particularly, Pinellas probably, but yeah, these people are paying buku money for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and they could definitely get a mortgage, so I want to do like a mail out specifically to those apartment complexes. So I want to get with you on that. That's my next attempt at trying to generate some business.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I think direct mail is look, if I were doing this, I don't really have a problem with the Boomtown platform, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't be spending money on Boomtown, but I'd have a diverse advertising budget, and for certain, direct mail would be part of my advertising budget. And it would start small and grow accordingly, right? Whatever it might be. But I think that's a smart play. You know, again, buckets, it's
Wanna
just
get with
buckets of sources.
on or before Wednesday. So, that if you.
Yeah,
have-
what time are you working Wednesday?
I'm doing the afternoon.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
I can come in early, but I'm gonna zip out, sorry.
All right, you got it. We'll see. We're finishing up, I think.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything?
I guess like I just have a question about like I've gone on some more FSBO appointments and like pretty much the objection I get like that I've been getting more on that is I have a friend or I know I have two friends. That thing, like I know I brought it up last week.
Well, how bold do you want to be? Do they work for Remax? I'll role play it with you. Or does your friend work for a Remax office?
I'm not sure.
Do they work for a national franchise? And there's only two that matters, Remax and Coldwell Bank, or anybody else?
I'm not sure.
So do you want to put it up? Do you want to put it up to sell it? Or are you just, you're just trying to see are you testing the waters? What are you doing?
Well, I mean, they're a friend of mine, so they gave me. They said
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's. This is a big thing. This is a big deal. Selling your house is the single biggest transaction that you possibly could do. So, if you needed surgery on your knee, would you try and find out who your friend was, or would you find the best doctor available?
I'd find the best doctor available.
Same thing on a house. This is your biggest. It could be worth tens of thousands of dollars to you if you make a bad decision. And
Well,
I'm
they've
sure
been
your
in the
friend,
business-
and I'm sure your friend would understand that.
They've been in the business a long time, so I feel.
How many are they, full-time or part-time?
I think they're full-time.
Okay, well, if you've got a full-time realtor and they've got a track record of being successful selling homes like yours, fantastic. But if they don't, then I would suggest you at least give consideration to hiring a pro. Like I said, you wouldn't hire a friend for surgery on your knee. You'd hire the best doctor. This is not a far cry different. Just depends on how aggressive you want to be.
Okay.
Meaning that, right?
Okay, thanks.
And a lot of times they're fucking lying. Just to be clear.
Okay.
Oh, who's your friend? Give me a name.
Oh,
Who's your
yeah.
friend? Who were they with? If they start stumbling, they're lying. Oh, who's your friend? Maybe I know them. I've been in the business a long time, sell a lot of houses. If they're an active realtor and they're doing a lot of business, I would know them. How aggressive do you want to be?
That's a good one. Yeah, I've literally had 3 people tell me that. And the last guy I talked with, he told me he had a friend, but then he said he was just gonna see what happened, and he had somebody who wants to buy it in February. And if he doesn't get any, offers until February, he's got a friend of his that wants to buy it in February. So I'm like,
Are they buying it for full market price?
I don't know. I did not.
Yeah. Is your friend paying you full price? Or are you selling it to him at a discount?
I think he's gonna pay full price.
You think or you know?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. I don't know for
You
sure.
want to take that risk? I mean, there is talk out there that this market could go 5 to 10% negative to 5 to 10% positive. Now is always the better time. I mean, I think the market's going to go up, but if it doesn't, if I'm wrong and it goes down 5 to 10%, you waiting, 60 or 90 days could just cost you whatever the sale price is times 10%. You want to wait? Do you want to wait 3 months to see if you just lost 30 grand? Or do you want to give it a shot now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
It just depends, and it is just logic. I mean, there's nothing there. That's just pure logic. Are you buying something when you sell it or no?
No,
What are you gonna do? It's an investment property?
yeah, it's a condo he bought for his mom and she moved into assisted living.
Gotcha. Okay. So is that money that's going to your mom? Like to help pay for her assisted living?
I haven't decided what I'm gonna do with the money yet.
I mean, I mean, obviously it's either your money or it's going to pay for assisted living. I mean, trying to get top dollar at any point in time would seem to be the most advantageous play to me. But
Right.
maybe money's not an issue for you. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I'll
You
think
just
about
got, look at, the whole thing is planting seeds. They may work, they may not work, but you're planting seeds, right? And if you don't get them, so what? You weren't going to get them anyway. That's, there's that aggressive, because I think like, yeah, I don't think you're, I don't think you're immune from this, because I think it's a lot of salespeople are guilty of it. They're afraid to take the shot for fear that they might not get the deal that they might get down the road.
Mhm.
I don't want to say that because I might alienate them. Well, if I walk out without a signed listing agreement, I may not get them anyway. What the hell's the difference? So I think you got to plant seeds, and you do it in a way like, look, I can, on a call, I'm peppering you with these sort of thoughts, but you mix them into conversation, right? While I'm, I mean, a guy might say, well, I got a friend. I might not address that right away. I might continue to walk around the house and then be like, oh, by the way, who was your friend? Like that kind of thing,
Yeah,
or, geez, it'd be fucking terrible to have to fire your friend,
oh, yeah,
or I know you're doing your friend a favor, but what if you screwed up your deal? I mean, then what's he still your friend? I don't know. You want to risk that? So you got to mix it into conversation, make it your own. Depends on how much you care about what they think when you leave.
Mhm.
That's the art and the decision that needs to be made. Right?
Yep.
So I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Hey, next week, I know, and I don't know if this makes a difference to anybody or not. Elena had asked me about going over like how I recommend doing CMAs on property, looking at value. And I could do that one-on-one with her, or if you guys think it should be a topic.
I would love to hear how you do it.
Yeah.
It's not really anything special, so.
Well,
All
yeah,
right.
I mean, it's just nice to hear how other people, I think everybody does it a little different, so I think it'd be nice to hear.
All right, I'll just make that part of our topic next week.
Thanks.
All right.
I
Okay.
got one question for you, Tony.
Shoot, go ahead.
You talked a little bit about articles that you're reading and how you're getting your information about like local and national markets. What resources are you using? Like, are you using MSNBC? Like, is there something specific?
I'm a Flipboard guy, so I just put the, like Flipboard on my phone and, a hashtag real estate, and I kind of flip through all them, and then the local data really you can get off of Pinellas Realtors website, their stats. So, I mean, they're just flat, if you want talking points, and the other one is Mac Center, their news, the news app. That's the other one. So they're my go-tos,
Okay.
and
Cool.
I just really make sure that I do want to know, like, I think Kristen made the point, it was either Kristen or Mary. I read the other side's argument, even though I know I'm not going to agree with it. I got to know, what everybody's hearing, so that I know what information I need to answer to. I can't live in just my bubble, whether I agree with it or not. And, occasionally I'll go, well, at least I can figure out what they're thinking. Like I can at least understand the perspective. Like I understand why people would say, I think there's going to be a crash, because that's the headlines that they use to get the clicks. It's clickbait. Headlines are clickbait today. They have no substance to them. So when you see that article, even though you may not think you want to read it because you don't agree with it, you read it anyway because it gives you data. Right? That's my thinking.
Okay. And then one other thing, do you think I could call you for like 10 minutes after this to talk about kind of like a very specific situation?
Yeah, for sure. Just ring me up. Give me like 3 or 4 minutes and then give me a call.
Okay.
We good?
Yep, thank you.
All right. Happy birthday, Sid.
Thank you.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Hey.